will have been replaced by AI. If that has happened, James and Randy, we owe John, name your bourbon. If that hasn't happened, you owe us.
Whoa. Be careful with that one. That could be a dangerous bet.
Send prompts, not nudes. I just want to AI some shit.
Here we are, another episode of DNAI Podcast, where the AI advancements come fast and furious, and sometimes the rest of the world notices.
Indeed, they do.
Indubitably.
Here again this week with my trusty co-founders. We got James. What you drinking?
All right. Yep. This week I've got some Castle's Curse Orphan Barrel.
Oh, you suck.
Orphan Barrel, 14 years. It's a Scotch. It's not actually a bourbon, but it is mighty fine. I am really enjoying this, and the wife did a good job for Valentine's Day, so can't complain.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. With us in, I guess, a green screen that's set up to look like a green screen, we have John, our AI overlord.
I have a green screen? You guys, I guess I'm the only one seeing not a green screen. But no, I'm drinking E.H. Taylor, small batch. I was debating between the rye, and I don't know why, I was just feeling small batch.
Awesome. Calling in from the futuristic city out of the Naible image model. I've got my Oban 14 again, Scotch.
Oh.
Partially because I'm partial to it, and partially because I've now cycled through all of the open whiskey bottles in my house.
Awesome.
There's no other options.
I love that. I love that image. I think that's when I clicked play on.
Yeah,
that was
nice.
One of yours.
We've been having a lot of fun.
The lighting. Yeah. Sorry, Randy. I didn't mean to talk.
You guys want to talk about this actually? Because if you're following this podcast, if you're one of our longtime fans here, you've probably seen blowing up on social some of these image models, and while Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, these things have been around for a while. What's special about these images you guys have been cranking out?
Oh,
they're ours.
Yes, they're ours.
Now, technically. This is the image model, right? You guys distilled it down from one of the other ones.
Flux, the Flux Dev open source one. Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite models out there, just because of the one, you can get really, really detailed, but two, you get a lot of control of the model, like a lot in prompting. So my goal was sort of to see how could I take light and ray tracing and the concepts that like video games are built off of, and then somehow get more control of that inside the model.
Yeah. Any insights you want to share without giving away the secret sauce of how you managed to get the model to work so damn good?
I mean, I don't know if it's working that good. I think it just I think it's one of those lucky things where I was like,
vibe engineering, right?
Yeah. Is my favorite innovation style. Around and find out. So I was just playing around heavily with what the text does, and I took images, different types of images, and I would give it examples with bad ray tracing, and then examples with good ray tracing, and then handle the prompts differently. And that was really it. It really wasn't a ton of training. It was just more of the concept and what I could do. And then James and me have been playing around with image models for a hot minute. And the thing that really made it shine was the prompting. So that combined with the extra weighting just made the images and the reflections so dynamic. At first, I couldn't really believe it. I was like, I don't know if I was lucky, and we're going through and trying to make different images. And the funniest part was I'm doing all this stuff, and I totally forgot. I was so excited, I forgot about inferences. And I'm just straight one-shotting these. And James is like, that looks really good. That looks really good. That looks really good. And then I think it was in the morning, James, I messaged you. I was like, I just totally spaced out. I was so excited generating images. So I started cranking the inferences up, and shit got real good.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a default inference setting.
There is.
It's 20 or something.
It's really, I think it's 50, it might be 15. I can't remember, but it's low, but it defaults.
Yeah.
If you leave it blank, but if you put 0, it actually does 0.
Yeah. So John did a lot of work on the back end to, like you were saying, like playing with the lighting, and then between John and I, we have been playing with image models for a long time. So we sort of have these rules that we created around prompting, turned that into somewhat of a meta prompt, and then cranked out a whole bunch of different styles following those types of instructions. And so what I was doing is I created a whole bunch of our own enable themes, right? And then going through and testing them. And then Randy, your background was one of the outputs from, I think that one was called rainy days, like something
Cloudy,
can't
yeah,
remember.
something.
Yeah, overcast.
City, yeah, overcast.
Yeah,
Yep.
something overcast, and the reflections and the lighting is it's something else.
The
Really
car
cool.
ones.
While you do that, though, it just reinforces, I think, what James has been saying, right? Language is the fabric of our reality. I think that the way that I thought image models had to be trained, until recent years, was you get lots of images and you show model good, you show model bad, and you churn through them. And really, it's all language. It's all, this is good, this is bad, and puts into context the images that are being trained in.
So I feel like I need some sort of trademark or some way to like get a penny or something every time someone says that, because
For real, might as well get paid, right?
Yeah.
language is the fabric of our reality. James gets $1.
There we
Ching.
go.
Actually, we should just have a little coin that pops up. Ching, ching.
Oh,
ching.
like one of those streaming.
Oh, that would be
like,
hilarious. Yeah.
Would you actually let us know in the comments? Reach out on social if you want to just do a Twitch stream of John developing 5 things at once.
You can see my whole screen, or you can only see the loop.
Can't see anything right now.
Oh,
Yeah, I can see your screen. Oh, let
okay.
me add it to the stage. There you go.
Oh,
there we go. Yeah. So
yeah, look at that.
The fun thing about this model specifically, so all the benchmarks you're about to see were actually like the top 10, I think, benchmarks that most image models are tested on. And I went with the mindset of like, okay, we've prompted and we know how to do that. So I'm going to create and find the best examples of those images and like train the model a little bit on it, just because I wanted to be able to say like, hey, I benchmarked it at some level. So things that are stagnant but lots of motion are tend to be difficult. So that was really fun. And then the one that blew me away with these. So getting into like the detail and the lighting, and then really, really dark images with really, really intense light, like HDR, even though it's not HDR. So that was really fun, training it and playing around with it. The ones that blew me away are the people, and the actual prompt is up here. So the prompt was develop an image showcasing extreme contrast and brightness. Like there is nothing about like who or the object. It could have been anything, but it really loves to do the details on people. So that was really fun. This was another one of the HDR tests. And then getting down into the micro or macro detail. This just blew me away because these are 512 by 512 pixels.
That's not very dense.
No.
Nope.
Wow.
Nope. It surprised me.
Wow.
I didn't even know like you could get. I don't know the details behind like how the pixels work at that size. I didn't think you could get images like this clear at that size. But when you go up to 1,000, it gets way better. I think actually right about after these field and like scene images, I think I started going in bigger sizes right about. This is the one I wasn't very happy about, James. We talked about this one. The plane is a little awkward. Reflection wasn't that great.
Yeah. I'm wondering how it's in the air.
Yeah. I mean, it's floating. It has spirit.
You can't see if you zoom in closely. The pilot has 7 fingers.
Probably.
Well.
Oh, and then these were awesome.
Yeah.
So smoke is an interesting one to get these like details, and actually this one isn't looking that great. This one might be the lower fidelity version, but it was really fun. More people, dogs, fur. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and playing with the light. There's a whole bunch of really cool things it can do. And the nice thing is you have a lot. I mean, the model from how much control you have on the cameras, not super different, but the ability to control like the lighting, that was the big difference. And like, I could not get another model to replicate this.
Yeah, that one in particular is pretty impressive. The lighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, so it was fun.
Very cool. Well, all on theme with the discussion we were having just before we hit record, right? About local models, about distillation of models, about the widespread mainstream culture recognition that models are pretty fungible. Something we've known for a little while, but I think that the DeepSeek R1 research paper and rollout has really surprised a lot of people. What are you guys seeing in the news this week, and things that you're tracking that, as we think through what the implications are as the world has kind of adjusted and the stock market has done its thing? Where does it leave us now?
I mean, right back where we started. I mean, has anything actually changed?
Business as usual.
Yeah,
Yep.
like, has anything really changed? I mean, there was a bunch of drama, and like usual, people talk about things, and stocks are impacted, and the world thinks everything is over. And once the social media hounds stop writing ridiculous hooks, things start to turn into more normalcy. Which is, I just have to say, it's a little sad that like the constant fragility of our giant economy rides on the back of social media.
Yep.
That it does.
Just
it does.
saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like, to me, this was I didn't expect the type of reaction. But I did it. I mean, I think I've said it for a few podcasts about, local models and distilling models, and right, like, to me, it wasn't a surprise. Oh yeah, of course I'm going to go use a really high advanced model to generate synthetic data and train a new model on, right? Like, duh.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, like, what do people think people have been doing? Like,
Mhm.
James, this was one of our discussions 3 years ago. Like, when generative first came out, we're like, oh yeah, unlimited fraud data.
Yeah, unlimited any data, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the nature of the beast. So I kind of chuckle when I'm seeing the headlines and watching everything freak out about it, because it's, to me, it's common sense. But that illuminates a need, right? There's an educational component, there's an awareness component, that I think that's here. That I think if folks were more in the know about what's going on with AI and models and how they work, maybe you don't have such a crazy reaction, right? Because this to me was completely like, I didn't even see like the reaction coming. Like I said, I just saw this as like oh yeah, this totally makes sense that someone would do this. It was only a matter of time before someone made something like really good. So,
but I unless it's changed, like, isn't OpenAI's policy that you were allowed to do model distillation from 4.0 or 4? I could have sworn it was in their terms of service. Isn't there an AI that we can ask?
You can distill our models, unless it competes with us, then the lawyers.
Is that what it is? You're allowed to do model distillation and training. It just can't be us that you're competing with.
I don't know. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of fine print.
That's probably fair.
But yeah, I'm no lawyer, but they're mad.
Well, I mean, I would be too, but they're really just mad because it's actually decent. But I mean, right. I don't know. This is my opinion. I don't think it's that great. I think that I really am not that impressed with it. Like,
I think it drove some benefit for us as consumers, right? Like, they immediately dropped O3. They immediately opened up the chain of thought prompts. At least on the pro version, when you pay for their services, they all of a sudden had to justify that $200 a month subscription in a way that they kind of had to knee jerk and do, and that was kind of nice.
Yeah, it's there's definitely like being able to run it locally is huge to me,
Yeah.
From a cost perspective. But if this teaches us anything, it just teaches us that OpenAI is still ahead, right? If the playbook moving forward is to take,
Premiere.
existing greatness, right, and then distill it and replicate it, you're not advancing, right? You're not out in front. You're not leading. You're taking what somebody else has done and you're, either improving it or replicating it or whatever. But it still means that OpenAI is still leading the charge. So that's my take on it.
Well, I think we need to talk about what was the innovation here, and the innovation wasn't the fact that they created a model with reasoning, right? The innovation here was moving it to 8-bit. That was the innovation.
Yeah.
That was the real difference here, is like challenging the status quo in model training and size. So it's like, okay, cool. Now we put a stake in the ground. We proved that this can be done. Instead of people questioning it or attempting it, now they have an example in open source that can be leveraged as like a new precedent. So you better believe like OpenAI is going to have an 8-bit model. I can almost guarantee you.
I think this is great, right?
Yeah.
This is great because this is competition, right? We keep setting new precedents. We keep raising the bar, and then things get better and cheaper for everyone. So I don't know. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. So I think that like I think 01 was a good example of what's possible. I think 03 is actually a far more usable model. Even the 01 Mini. I mean, good God, I love that thing. But you're sitting on sort of a, I don't know, precipice of now the world is waking up to reasoning models. Let's call it what it is. Like we've been doing like the whole cognitive, like internal thought, like stuff for a while. So it's like I was super underwhelmed by R1. Like I think the 8-bit is the coolest thing, but I think the way they're reasoning and how it reasons is absolutely mediocre at best. 03 is God on another level for how it reasons and what it does and how it decides how long it reasons. And when you're looking at the difference between the two, it's really cool that yes, you can run one locally, and R1 is extremely powerful and can do some really cool stuff. But what happens when, OpenAI decides, cool, well, it's $20 a month and we'll let you run 03 locally or a 03 derivative, right? Locally. Like, okay, great. The best thing that this is going to create is a new opportunity market where, like James, what you've been saying, edge compute is now like a requirement to play the game. So like you may have really cool Premiere stuff, but if you're not playing an edge compute, like, are you competing?
Yeah, that just makes me think about like what companies are going to do next to get into your machine. Because you start moving all this nice juicy data that everyone's using up in the cloud to now locally. Now they're going to start thinking like, all right, how do we figure out what's going on here?
I'm really curious to know what OpenAI is doing with all the data they're getting from Apple. Right, that deal came out over a year ago now. They've had an opportunity to see a lot of those data feeds, and that's a perfect place for a smaller model that is capable enough to drive to the on device model, because it's only for overflow conditions that it goes to their servers. So I think it'd be really interesting to see what comes out with the next iOS if that partnership continues. It's probably an early place we'll see them do some of the stuff with smaller models. Also, though, just saw a story come across that they're working on a chip. So they're going to have a competitor to Nvidia as part of their stack. No, OpenAI.
I didn't see that. Really interesting.
This came out today, actually. OpenAI set to finalize first custom chip design this year. They're going to reduce their Nvidia dependency, just like us as individual consumers of Nvidia hardware. OpenAI is feeling resource constrained.
Yeah.
TSMC
I just want a 5090.
Good luck.
You and everyone else.
If you'd like to be a podcast guest, we got a free spot for anybody who gives John a 5090.
By the way,
we actually need 3. So if you supply us 3, I will do amazing AI things for you. I can guarantee
we'll work for GPU.
We'll AI for GPU. That's a new bumper sticker.
But don't if you're watching this and you're gonna pay a scalper an exorbitant amount for don't do it. Don't give in.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
Uh,
depending on how all the tariffs and everything run. I don't know how absorbent it's going to really be.
yeah, I guess time will tell with that. Because I remember this with the 3090s, similar, because I think there was a chip shortage at that
That was
time.
That was shipping. It was because of COVID. It was because of COVID. I remember this because that's when I got my 3090.
Yeah, so the prices came back down as
Yeah.
availability came back. This is a little bit different scenario.
Until the 4090s came out.
Yeah, so you might just need to wait till it's 6090.
Oh,
Nice.
well,
By
but
then,
think about the difference, though.
by then, who knows? Like by then, digits might be off the ground, and then
exactly
right. Like there's going to be new tech coming out.
Well, but this is an interesting topic because like AMD is really not playing in the game. Like they're playing in the game, but they have made a clear decision. Like we're not going to try to compete. We're going to go down a different route. We're going to make the best chips for gaming, right? The 3D chips, like which are stellar for gaming. Like holy crap, what a world difference! But when you're getting into like the GPUs, like they're just not as out there as Nvidia, and most people aren't using them, which means you got to refactor code and do a little bit of different stuff. But when you're thinking about where is the money kind of flowing and what is being paid for, what's out there, the 5090 is a really interesting example because I was reading an article about the difference between 3090, 4090, and 5090. And they were like, what's fascinating is everything else seems to be moving faster as Moore's law, excuse me. But right now, if you look at the trajectory of the 3090 to 4090, it's 70% increase. So everybody was like, holy crap, I have to have a 4090. And the difference between a 4090 and a 5090 is only 30%. The big AI difference is 32 gigs of VRAM. That's the big difference. It's not necessarily the performance, it's the fact that you have 32 gigs of VRAM versus 24.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like I said, Nvidia is going to flip the script on this as soon as Project Digits comes out, right? Because the name of the game right here, what we're talking about is affordability, right? It's hard to get that type of performance that you can get out of a 5090. Like what was I looking at? A6000s, and they're like $2,000 more, but they perform worse.
Yeah.
Than a 5090. So you'd have to buy two of them if you wanted to get like the
similar
bigger VRAM. Yeah. So like
actually it wasn't the VRAM issue. It wasn't the VRAM. It's just straight up speed.
Well, yeah,
because they have
more VRAM. Yeah, yep. It's the speed.
I want an Nvidia spine in my house. Personal. I want to be able to move the internet in less than like 30 seconds. That much data.
Well, you have the electrical wiring for it.
No, I don't. Oh my God. I mean, we're getting there, but at the same time, I think I was joking with you guys earlier. Like, I'm gonna have to buy solar, not because like I really
need to harness.
I just need to stop my bill from being so damn high because how many I have 4 GPUs in the house.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, I literally need to harness the power of the sun to play my video games.
Well, it's not even that. It's just like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, well, this computer back here is working on this. This computer over here is working on this. I haven't even started touching the kids' computers upstairs, but that's the next on the list. I even talked about bringing one of them down here so Nicole can use it. But at this point, with as close to autonomous as some of this stuff is getting, I mean, what do you guys think? We're already in that game and we're dabbling in it, but that's going to accelerate itself very quickly. And what happens when I could have 3 computers running full time, coding and building apps or debugging apps or running vulnerabilities like as workers would? Like, why wouldn't I have 3 computers running it? Even $400 a month for power, extra power bill isn't going to be that much. Like comparatively, if I had 3 extra employees doing it full time.
Yeah, well, that's the key is if it's making money for you, then there is no reason you wouldn't do it.
As long as the reasoning is solid enough that you can trust it and it's getting there.
And if you can make 100 million, then you have AGI.
What if I don't want the 100 million AGI? What if my AGI is on the dumb side of the bell curve?
AGI Junior.
Yeah,
I like it.
Like I'll still take that. James
Yeah,
is like, I don't know. I want the smart one. No, I think it's fascinating though. Like the debate of AGI related to finance. Like I'm pretty sick of that debate. But if we want to talk about benchmarking for a second, like I'm not so sure we're benchmarking AGI like in the right way.
Yeah, how so? Like what's again, here we talk about AGI again.
I know. Well, do we want to shift topic? Look,
well, I think we could
up to you.
So like AGI is, again, one of those like headline things, like we get AGI, what happens, blah blah blah. But I think it's more interesting to say, like, when we have the AI that we currently have in society, what happens then?
Actually, I mean, hell, what if 90% of major enterprises had chatbots?
Right.
Enterprise level chatbots. What then?
With good RAG, good ability to understand context.
Fuck that. All they need is a chatbot. They don't even have that. People are using their freaking cell phones at work.
Yeah.
True.
Like seriously, like how the group of people we associate with, and we can easily ping that group and ask raise their hands, how many people have enterprise level chatbots? Doesn't even have to have RAG. Just the fact that you can talk to AI and your enterprise is on the same page.
Yeah.
Like what, 3 out of like everyone? 4 maybe?
Well, that's the really interesting thing is that people, everybody's tried ChatGPT. And I think recently a lot of people have downloaded DeepSeek, seeing where it was in the App Store. But how many people are really using it, right? How many people are really letting it transform their lives? It's such a small percentage right now. And yet it is such a big theme of investment and focus across the economy that we know it's coming. But I think you're absolutely right. There's still just such a gap because even places where they could use chatbots, are they, really using them to the full extent of what they have? The answer is almost certainly not.
I mean, I think I sent you guys a video this week or last week. Actually, it's last week because this is a new week. So the guy was essentially talking like, I don't think people realize how big this is, right? And we've talked about it for a while, but it's the democratization of data. It has nothing to do with the fact that you have this thing that communicates to you. It doesn't really even matter that it can reason or whatever. It's just you can get data at any point about any topic that you want at any time. And it's getting better. Like I would say insanely better. O3 deep research is probably one of the best, unbelievable, like accurate models that I've seen be able to take in an inordinate amount of data, search data on top of that, and still come back with like extremely accurate results. Now, it's not just running through like iterations of thought. It's doing self-checks. It's doing quality control on its own data output. It's like leveraging graph RAG, all the other functions that like we'd want to see in like a really, really good design. But the model's also very, very, very powerful. And when all those things come together and they work really, really well, the output is really, really great. But like, how many people are clamoring to buy an O3 for their enterprise? Like, I mean, right now,
if you're in the research business, you are.
Well, let's say you're not. Let's say you're in banking and you have an enterprise worth of data. And let's pretend that maybe you've done a level of data classification and maybe you have some role-based access somewhere in your stack. And you could put a DeepSeek, or not DeepSeek. Oh boy. Yeah, you go ahead. Get the China model. No, I'm joking. You can put a deep research like O3 at an enterprise level for your company.
Well, I mean, why? Like, it's a bank, right? Like, most banks today are at a level of maturity where the way they're going to grow is through acquisition of markets. So,
how many banks have you been to that like can find a document when you ask for it?
Well, internal documentation, sure.
I'm talking about just internal.
Yeah, just internal, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. You could increase your efficiency and maybe cut some headcount and protect your net interest margin. But like beyond that, it's not really like a super priority for a bank. It's right. Like I'm talking about it from a use case perspective. If I'm thinking about a researcher, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
So-
you know,
Well, but
the banks have been working with this type of technology for years, right? And it's not been, well, hang on,
no,
at
they
a lower
haven't.
level, it hasn't been implemented at the scale at what you could do. What you could take the last $100 million of investment that banks have put into AI and ML, rip that out, and replace it with an O3 subscription and get to roughly the same value.
Sure,
I
but
bet-
it's still going to go through all the risk processes and all the stuff because nobody trusts what it's coming back is actually real, right?
For sure.
Like it's like, so I don't know. I'm trying to think of it like realistically.
I know you're trying to think of it like if a bank put all the
if a bank actually did this, what would actually
fail.
happen? They would fail at implementing it because
Correct.
they have systems that are built around
not letting innovation
not
happen.
doing that, right? Bingo.
Because innovation is risk.
Yeah. So like,
I mean, there's been a broader the fintech phenomenon, right, of all the banks wanting to buy fintechs where that innovation could happen, away from the legacy Fortran code and ancient servers, and then acquire them into the stack, or migrate onto those platforms is the play.
COBOL.
But let's do this. I'll ask the question a different way, James. What if we would have had O3 when we were building fraud models? How many fraud models would we have built? How many equations would we have hypothesized? How fast would we have dug for value and built more models than an entire data science group of people?
No,
Because we can be wrong 100 times.
No, I fully understand and agree with the point you're making. I just don't think it would realistically be implemented anytime in our lifetime.
Well, that's why 4% of people are using AI in a kind of significant way,
right?
So we're going to open up a new hotline. It's going to be 1-800-ENABLE. Let's fuck up some banking. That's really long. That's too many numbers. Can we make it shorter? FU banking AI. I don't know. No, it's not. Maybe we should take the FU out for like the whole banking thing. I don't know. Like we need a hotline. Call this number and if you want to mess up something and break things, that totally sells to bankers. They love that. But seriously, how many banks have innovation centers that don't really innovate, or they have innovation centers that like, hey, if we change this color in the lobby, does it make our people feel more peaceful when they enter a bank so they're not stressed about how little money they have in their account?
I have seen this. Banks, they want innovation, but like it comes from the top down, right? The top down are bankers, right? It's the business. Like it just, you can put innovation teams in, you can do all this, all these projects. Yeah, that sounds great. We should do that. But then as soon as those, quarterly earning reports come out and like, what's our balance sheet look like? Yeah. Well, banking's been around for a very long time and it hasn't changed. Money comes in, money goes out, right? We'll pay you for deposits. You pay us for loans.
Well, but I mean, like this is let's take a different spin on it, right? So OpenAI deep research autonomously browses the web, writes reports, and can even get you like, borderline white paper, legal documentation, you name it. It's really good at going out, hitting 20 different sources and finding a way to create the thing that you're asking for. And I would have to say it's not only good at doing that, it's good at even understanding and drawing like a contextualization of what you're asking, even if it is completely outside the box. Like, yeah, I don't know if I've actually done that before, but sure, why not? Let's go research it. And it puts things into context that like some people like myself struggle to verbalize because the concept is different from like the fabric of our reality, James. Ching! There's
$1.
Hey, I thought we'll try to say it as many times as possible and make sure you get paid. So we are in a startup after all. So like when we think about like, what is the point of a junior analyst or a paralegal?
Mm-hmm.
let's start there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think those are two direct use cases that can be pretty applicable, right?
The way back to, your net interest margin, right? Like, how much of that cost is people
Yes.
preparing research and documents and gathering information from one system, putting it somewhere else, right? That's the piece. If you can isolate that process without gunking up the risk management stuff, which is oftentimes for a good purpose, that's where the opportunity space is.
Yeah. So if you can get the trust, then that's the key.
Yep.
That's the key. Yep.
But yeah, so Anthropic just put out an interesting paper. I don't know if you guys saw. There's they took all of their traffic that's going in on people who are using Claude, and did some matching, I guess, to government databases to figure out like what occupation people are using, what kinds of tasks they're doing with it. That's where that 4% is only 4% of occupations within the research report use AI for 75% or more of their tasks. So most people are using it a little bit. About half of it is software engineering, data science, and writing. 4% use it for 75% or more of their tasks.
Oh, okay.
So there are power users in there.
Was there two percentages in that statement?
Yeah. So what we're saying is a really small population uses it to do a lot, like way more than half of their day.
Yeah. For example, foreign language and literature teachers use it a ton.
Yeah. I bet.
Interesting.
They're seeing a lot of, course planning, a lot of marketing managers using it, right? Where they don't see it as much as, actual, heavy labor, right? Makes sense. The robotics are not yet streaming into Anthropic. And in super high skills like physicians, where it's probably like HIPAA concerns keep them from doing that.
God, don't get started on that.
Yeah.
It's a whole
But again, local models, distilled versions of these massive closed online models, offline models, can bring that percentage up as well.
Well, so yes and no. Let's talk about that for a second, because I think this is a huge miss point on pretty much every enterprise that's out there. So you're going to tell me that we have HIPAA concerns and you can deploy a model in your own environment. Like right now, you can go into Azure and you can deploy a PHI, which will give you 4.0 like output, and you could empower your physicians to know things faster. And we have HIPAA concerns.
Well, I think this goes back to the same problem as banks, right? But decisions are made by people who are doctors, not people who are data scientists or engineers.
Well, but then the other thing I see too is, and this is really interesting because there's a huge cybersecurity component in here, right? Data protection. That's another area. It's another industry that is not really fully understood, right? Under talented, like understaffed.
Actually,
right?
That's a good point, James.
Yeah, lacking the talent, but also is a newer integration into businesses, but is a necessary component to enabling AI within a business environment.
Yeah,
right. To be able to operate like in a trustworthy way, right? I'm probably not saying that
you're spot on, actually, because people are not going to use AI they don't trust, first of all, but like trust has to be both ways. Has to be the users, and it has to be the people that are like executing it, distributing it, providing it, like helping it be accessible. I don't know what we're looking for here, but the whole point is like the top and the risk officers and all the people involved have to trust it just as much as the people using it going the other way. And I don't think that there's enough understanding. Like if we want to break it down for the average enterprise right now, if you have not deployed your own endpoint with a model on it, you're 2 years behind. Let's call it what it is. If you are not taking that endpoint that you've created and applying basic RAG, you're a year behind. And if you are not using that endpoint to create a democratization of accessible like information that doesn't matter, like HR documentation, handbooks, like guides, call guide centered like stuff. Like there's a million use cases that is just basic democratization of data. You're at minimum probably, well, I would say 6 months behind, but the reality is like most of the people haven't even done that. So like I say, you're behind in the sense of the acceleration that your organization is going to see from something like that is going to be massive, let alone like, James, how much help would it be to take your risk registry for your company and give access to an O3 model?
Oh, like unbelievable. Like that. Yeah, there's the amount of acceleration would be massive.
Plus on the fly, you'd be able to do like your mathematics, like, and they would be better than probably most of your data scientists.
You could run scenarios, you could run simulations, you could do all the things that, that you hope to do, that you try to do, that you try to make time for. But the reality of a lot of the risk at enterprises is it's just massive bureaucracy, red tape, right?
You're the one risk that isn't really captured in a risk register is opportunity cost, right? Ooh. So that's where the fear of data loss or the fear of breach or reputational damage sometimes outweighs the right amount of investment in building these capabilities. And as you guys know, before I came here full time, I spent a little bit of time in cyber and risk circles and worked with some of these companies, and saw firsthand leaders, healthcare companies leading the charge in building AI, right, and standing up, doing all the things they're supposed to be doing, but you have a bureaucracy and an infrastructure, right, that is just so risk averse and so patient focused as well, right? Like every decision has to be made in healthcare about, is this going to adversely impact our patients? Well, because it's the moral thing to do, and it's also the insurance thing, to be compliant with.
And in some paradoxical sense, that's the perfect use case for where AI could fit in, right?
Yep.
People who are doing jobs who aren't really doing their job because they have like all this paperwork, all these meetings, all this stuff, and you can't actually sit down and think critically for an entire week, right? Or an entire chunk of time to do what you're there to do as a risk professional or a cyber professional, right? So like
get from the current state of where most companies are to where we all know they should be really takes, a lot of leadership, takes a lot of top level, focus. It has clarity. You have to understand the risks and understand the mitigations. And you have to be willing to invest. You have to be able to say, like, we're going to spend some money on things that may not go somewhere to teach ourselves how to have the muscle to deliver this capability. And most companies are just not in that mode right now.
And you might be wrong.
Yeah.
Right. You might make mistakes.
Yeah.
But
guaranteed you will. Let's be real.
But
humans make mistakes.
It's like pull the wrong document for like your HR policy mistakes, not like amputate the wrong leg.
But that's the key. Is like pick a thing that if you mess up, it's not the end of the world. It's not regulatory compliance violation, right? Use that as an example, and then say, hey, were we able to control access to information within utilization of a RAG model? If the answer is no, then hey, looks like you have another lesson to learn.
In fairness, access to information in RBAC, stop there. A lot of companies struggle.
Why? But why? This is like this is a cluster thing. Speed. How fast can you go to get a thing?
Yep.
And how fast can you ingest information to make decisions and drive impact? And right now, the biggest thing that's stopping everyone from doing that is people. Like, that sounds really horrible, the way that just came out. But, like, that's the reality. Is, like, to James's point, we have a bunch of people doing jobs. But, like, I think the figure that when I was researching this, the average executive spends 30 to 35% of their day handling email and calendar.
Yeah, that's a lot of time.
And
let's go to hours. Like, think how much money your average executive makes a year. Like in a banking environment, a C-suite executive, and they spend 30% of their time doing things that an admin should do.
But back to your original statement, all the way back about how silly R1 and the stock price is, right? That's the fundamental, I think, understanding that the market gets, right? Is that AI and our ability to do AI is the only thing that's going to drive increased productivity, because you can't bring it out of the existing system. There's too much lock-in. There's too much institutional, like, it's going to take a generation for that to change. But the economy, the market competition of new companies, new competitors, new demand for different products and services, that's going to force the change.
was
So
about
your
to say,
company may not be able to innovate, but your competitor or your 10 different startups that have come from people who were, laid off from your competitors that are now starting agile, AI companies to beat you, they're going to eat your lunch. And that's where I think most of that economic activity that the market is pricing into, the viability of AI comes from.
I think it is way faster than a generation.
I'm saying without that market dynamic, it'd be a generation, but because of the market, it's going to be a couple years.
Yeah, I think
It's gonna be as fast as people adapt.
I don't think
Faster that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was about to say it doesn't give a shit about you adapting.
as fast as agents adapt.
Correct. Like I'll put it this way: 5 years, 50% of knowledge workers replaced by
Okay.
AI agents.
Let's make a bet. Let's make this official. What's the over under here? And let's see if what's it February 10th, 2030, 50% of knowledge workers from 2025 will have been replaced by AI. If that has happened, James and Randy, we owe John, name your bourbon. If that hasn't happened, you owe us.
Whoa! Be careful with that one. That could be a dangerous bet.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. No, but like, let's be real. It's already started. Like, well, I mean, there's numbers out there that are staggering already. So, one company that we all have a friend in, 3,500 people in one move, all replaced by AI.
Are you talking about Meta?
No, this is not. Actually, that's another good example.
That's 5%. Yeah,
but
5%.
Yeah. I mean, this has already started. But like medical transcription is a prime example. Every medical transcription company that use people will no longer use people. Yeah, it's all gone.
I'm surprised that there are any left.
Wait.
There
define knowledge worker.
That's not a knowledge worker. Yeah, it depends on how you define it. But I'm actually targeting people like lawyers. I'm talking about people like domain knowledge. You probably saw my post. Like, hey, if you're a consultant and like you haven't seen the writing on the wall yet, like go prompt O3 deep research and then then talk to me, because the reality is like I can make you any data protection program and I can apply it to any level of your organization by what risk level you're currently at, and I can quantify that in a way that no freaking team is going to be able to do, faster than any team is going to be able to do. And I can guarantee you the only difference between that and like how you actually apply it is going to be that you have the talent to actually execute. And it will be EY level. Actually, it might be better because it'll take in EY, Accenture, everybody who's ever created anything and put it publicly on the internet. It's going to take all of that. And then on top of all of that, it's going to take all the knowledge that's been sucking up illegally over the last, 5 years of all the model training they've done and all the other things that people have prompted into it and all the EY people who were not supposed to be using it, but using it, and yada, 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 the list goes on. But the reality is the only difference between like taking someone off the street who has enough mental plasticity and turning them into a data protection expert is the knowledge that they need in order to ask the right question. So like if companies change the way they trust people to execute and give empowerment towards execution, I think the change we're going to see is there will be high trust positions that are replaced by knowledgeable prompters, we'll call it. I don't know what else to call it, but like maybe they're problem solvers, James. Maybe they're mental, like they're a different type of person, right? And those people can be a lawyer one day. They could be a data protection expert one day. They could be a cybersecurity like SOC expert the next day. But they could play across every field in the playbook, leveraging their AI because they know how to dance with it.
Yeah, how many people have that ability is the real question.
I think that is the right question. I think me and you talked about like how could we test an enterprise for that? Like we've hypothesized this about.
You have to have an enormous capacity for lateral thinking.
Yes.
It's
not just that. You have to have lateral thinking is like probably the main component. The other side of it that I think that I'm starting to see a lot of is just the ability to like challenge yourself that there is no norm. Like you can't establish a norm because any norm that you establish can be like an anchor that holds you to a belief and it stops you from moving forward.
Exactly. It's lateral thinking plus you got to be a little crazy.
Oh, that's rude.
When you're training a model, traditionally think about it as a two-dimensional space, right? You have local minimum or local maximums, right? Where you're getting to a certain performance, and then you need, I think it's perplexity, right? That bumps you out of that to find the higher level, right? The point being is that as you're optimizing a group of parameters, you can't just go down to the best one. You actually have to hop around a little bit so you don't get stuck. That's the crazy in this.
I don't know if it's
crazy has to be
crazy. It's
crazy enough
diversity.
to push
Honestly,
you out of the path you're on and find the more optimal solution.